Being the case, I will call to order the Homeless Advisory Board meeting for September 18th. And welcome to everyone in attendance. Maybe we will start with roll call. Actually have a new member, so North Bend has representation. So
I'm Sharon Claiborne.
Hi Sharon, how are you? It's nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us.
David Giel, so at Coos County.
and Nicole Rutherford, City Coos Bay.
And I'm John Sweet with Coos County.
And you've met Eric.
Hello.
Okay, great. That's kind of the first item. The second item is Homeless Response Office Financial Report. We've been kind of sharing out last month was our first month doing so, kind of our financials summary and funding kind of summary as we see new
New revenues
options
coming
in, kind of watching those things as they're moving along. I don't know, is Ashley sharing or are you?
Yeah, I actually don't have an update for this month. I haven't gotten the latest financials from Megan. But I will send one out first thing next week.
Okay, sounds great. And we're not doing anything formal with that. We're not doing any, approving of those. It's just to kind of keep us all in the same pace. And I apologize. We have another member who is online, Counselor Kilmer. You want to?
Hi there.
She's our second representative from Coos Bay and now like permanent since Commissioner or Counselor Farmer resigned. We're so thankful we had you guys, the council was so smart to have an alternative already determined. So we are still ready to go with Coos Bay. So
I had to use a little trickery to get on here, so I don't have any materials or any agenda or anything. So
okay, we can probably share that.
It's in the calendar, right?
I used an old one. I didn't have anything.
Okay.
I will forward it to you in just a moment.
Thank you.
And we'll see to it that Megan has those numbers. Next year, David will be in charge of that.
Okay, I mean, it is end of fiscal year and audit. I'm sure you guys are knee deep in audits. So
She'd have it if there's any way
Yeah.
she could.
yeah, I don't think we're not.
That's actually
I got it.
Maybe
Slack.
I need to say that I'm Ron Moore and I'm newly appointed to this board.
Oh, well, you get to have a seat.
Be a.
Yeah,
Well, I had no idea. I thought this was the board.
no.
No. You get to come on up too.
Okay.
Welcome. Sorry we didn't
Well, I'm a
make
new
those
guy, and
connections.
I don't know much.
That's okay.
So,
We're all
I'm
learning.
learning here.
You're in good company. Person.
Yeah.
Good to meet you guys. Yes.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
All right, look at us. Fully seated board here. Been a bit. Okay, so we're gonna pass on the financials again. That's not something it's a formal approval of those. We just are doing some review and kind of being transparent in the public. So as soon as those are available, we'll be able to share.
I just say that just the new program too, it's been part of what we're trying to do is help us keep on track. It's been a bit confusing because the different funding streams and different names attached and trying to figure out how much money is in which one and where it's attached to. So we try to develop a format for, I think maybe only for us as a board as well, just to keep track in our brains, kind of what's coming in, what's going out. It's sort of like a dashboard of kind of where things are. So that's what has been our attempt.
And each funding source can only be used for certain things.
Right.
Yeah.
And so.
Grants.
Yeah, there is the original grant, which is the 4223 for 4123. See, and that helped establish the homeless office and we had to submit a plan. And so that obligates us to this office for at least a period of 5 years. And then we've had several funds that have come in, 5019, which is being administered by the city of Coos Bay. And so that's one that's been working on. And there's another one, Ori. I see, I'm testing myself here.
Good job.
And I don't remember the number for Ori,
It was 5506.
5506.
Everyone calls it Ori now, so we just keep it with that.
Yes. And is that the one more specifically geared towards youth?
Yeah, yes,
Yes.
that was one we got as a result of a direct application by AYA.
Right.
For youth and family rehousing dollars.
Right. And then there's others that are potentially on the horizon.
Yes, Ashley applied for, and I understand we've been acknowledged as awarded for YEHA, so
YEHA.
Youth Emergency Housing Assistance, I think, that's what that is. And that is kind of in conjunction with the other housing piece to add some expansion of being able to meet all needs there. And then we just submitted Housing 360 on Monday, which again adds that scope that's missing with just rehousing funds, so kind of wrap around extra services there, not just getting you in the home, but helping ensure you can stay in that space. And then we will keep looking out for.
So this group has some authority to put sort of a stamp of approval for other applications coming in. And so this group may not administer those grants, but we are generally asked whether we approve them or not, and our vote has some weight in terms of how those are viewed and how those funding decisions are made. So yeah, and so we've been hoping to collaborate, and Eric and Ashley have done a really good job, and Nicole's been on some of the individual meetings with other partners trying to get these to go. So and some of them are directly housing related, but as Nicole said, others of them are the supports, because we know that sometimes just putting somebody in a house with no supports is just a recipe for disaster, especially people who have a lot of needs. So trying to get the funding available to provide supports along with the housing needs is often really key, especially when we're talking about certain harder populations to maintain housing. So, and we do have a large group of people that are by definition chronically homeless, which means they've been homeless for a longer period of time. So.
And what can the 5019 funds be used for? Streets improvements in Coos Bay.
Yeah, streets improvements in Coos Bay. Finally, no, they're very specific metrics for that. We are supposed to, with that, rehouse 32 households and add 8 shelter beds in our community. So
Yeah, most of a lot of the funding today we have certain targets that we need to meet to meet those, and they have to do with shelter beds and rehousing. And Alternative Youth Authority is one of the ones that's doing some of the work using those 5019 funds.
Yes.
So.
yep.
And the two are very similar, the ORI funds and the rehousing of 5019. AYA has been essentially doing all the work for those dollars. They've used up some of the 5019 dollars, and now they're starting to use ORI dollars, and we'll have to have another service provider to use up the other 5019 dollars for rehousing.
And then the other major partner we've been working with is Salvation Army, and we granted through the county some funds for them to get started with their Hope Village. And that helps them get some seed money, but they're gonna need some additional funds too, probably out of some of our options as well for their ongoing operations, so. So we'll try to give you guys what we know, which
Yeah,
may be small or
Mm-hmm.
greater.
yeah, as I'm not sure if you guys have even connected and maybe had some online conversations with Eric or Ashley, but that might be great too to.
We spoke on the phone a little bit and have emailed, Baron and I have emailed, and yeah, glad you're here.
Yeah.
We'll have lots more information for you.
Yeah. But ask questions.
You bet.
I'm informally managing how this meeting goes, so okay, if you poke it, yeah. Okay, so now we're at item number 3, which is the opportunity for us to hear from a couple of the projects that we've already given awards to, that one being AYA, and I'm not sure that Scott's got an update for that, so probably not in attendance, but David Major Kaufman is here for Salvation Army, if there's anything you'd like to share.
Sure. Hope Village, the land use permit was submitted on August 29th. The drawings, I mailed it to you, Eric. You have a format, put them up, it's up to you, but anyway, I mailed them to Eric, I mailed them to key individuals throughout town. It's the schematic drawings that will allow us to start the process of neighborhood review. And the next steps will be land development application and then permits. And that's the next steps we're taking. Hope Village, at this point, hasn't spent an awful lot of the money. We've spent maybe, I would say it's under $10,000, way under $10,000 for the architecture, schematic drawings, surveying, the geotechnical study. That's where we stand, and we're only using the 480,000 provided through HB4123 because we're still working through. I spoke to Ann Cook, the executive director at Indian Housing Authority 2 days ago, and she said, you know, I thought the Salvation Army had a lot of bureaucracy. It turns out OHCS has just as much. And I felt good. But our process was quite long. Anyway.
Misery loves company.
Apparently, yeah, governments, anyway, yes, I'm going under, the end of the day, we're in procurement right now with OHCS to secure $678,000 that will be for construction and operation of Hope Village.
Where's this located?
Oh, thank you. I'll just get up and show it to you. This is Showman. 7-Eleven sits right here on Newmark,
Okay,
and this is Flanagan Street. Now, our property is 5 acres here, shaped like Nevada. That's my home, I mean, my home state. Anyway, the Hope Village will go right here where you see that looks kind of like dirt. It's gonna wrap around the back of the building here. Right there, right where Eric's got you.
across from Rite Aid?
No,
Where, I don't know where we are here.
all right, sorry, we were
That's
talking.
okay, you said 7-Eleven, that's the one I know is.
Coos Bay.
Blocks away.
Coos Bay.
This would be about,
Okay, thanks.
this would be Newmark, sorry, yeah, Coos Bay,
Yeah,
Newmark Street, and 7-Eleven would be about right here. This is that street running alongside it, Showman. And this is Flanagan, Sunset School sits right over here.
Okay, okay.
And it's going on that property,
How many units or?
we're putting in 8 transitional family units, transitional temporary housing. It's a 2-year program, essentially to help people transition from unhoused to permanent housing. And it's set in 6-month increments so that it's gonna be about progress versus perfection. So people will just have these markers that they'll meet and we'll keep them in there. I suspect that some might need a little more time than 2 years, so I'm not gonna set a hard 2 years. We're gonna be doing, Salvation Army has a program called Pathway of Hope. It's essentially a housing wraparound service. It's kind of referenced by Nicole, or a wraparound service, and David, Mr. Gales too, in regard to helping people know where they're at, what their assets are, their strengths versus their weaknesses, and help them move along those lines to
That's great.
successful.
I work at the casino, I've been there almost 15 years, and at any given time, we have a dozen people living in their cars and sheds and tents under bridges. And they make $16 an hour, $18 an hour, but they can't get in anywhere. There's no place they can afford. First, last, security deposit, it kills them. They just have nowhere to go. So that's kind of encouraging to hear that.
That's,
Yeah,
we wanna help all those folks.
yeah, sure.
We need to build more of these.
Yes.
Do you want to explain, I don't know if that's part of your presentation as
I'll
well?
go to the next page,
Okay,
as I zoomed in.
this is the layout that the architect came up with. There was a change already this morning. City permit and fire marshal, Amy Linder, city Coos Bay came by. It's gonna be a road that comes back here. This has to be asphalted in. If we don't do this, we have to put in a turnaround for a fire truck, so you don't see here 150 feet. We discussed this morning moving the trash can. This is a laundry room right here, and it'll have laundry facilities and dog washing for everybody.
Marvelous.
The trash, I asked if we could keep it up on this side because we get a lot of rain here and I'd hate for this family back here to have to carry miles. Anyway, she said, yes, sure, put it right there. The road ends here, and then we discovered that these drawings were for decomposed granite, which is that gold looking rock that kind of locks together.
Right.
We decided that we should probably move away from that because she described how an ambulance would come in. My boss caught this too before Amy did. But how an ambulance might come in, they have a bed. Are they gonna get it down the decomposed granite pathway? So we're gonna move into either asphalt or concrete for these. The other one, this one that stands out, this is an ADA unit, specifically for those that are experiencing different disabilities. Any other questions?
No, but a dog washing station is brilliant.
I guess so too.
99% of them have dogs, and wouldn't it be wonderful if they could maintain them as well?
The architect came up with that.
Brilliant.
That's genius, because I don't know, your dog goes outside, bring it back in, there's blood all over.
Sure. In the mud.
My house, we need a cat washing. Maybe like some kind of hazmat where you got with the,
Put them in and shut them
Or you're
down.
behind a shield.
yeah, there's a little cage shield.
Just a dishwasher. Just kidding.
Oh. Cat lover.
Is that up there?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I think if you go in further, there might be a design of a unit actually.
Further pages?
Yeah, keeps,
Okay.
that looks again, just like the property.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
turnaround that you have
Turn
to.
around.
Okay.
We're trying our best to keep the landscape, so you see the big round things are the trees that are existing on the property.
Let's do this, make my spot bigger, but there's the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the topographical.
There's no units there, Eric. I think he said there's a specific one with a unit.
Yeah,
diagram.
with the inside
floor
of
plan?
the unit, yeah.
Yeah, A2, I wanna say. That's the one.
Okay,
One of these is ADA, and then one's just a regular unit. The design that we're using, I think this is the ADA. The design that we're using, the plan initially was to call it 16, because we were gonna do individuals, but the Salvation Army said that, since your property specializes in youth services, we prefer that you work with families.
Okay.
And so, over the longer term, I imagine that the Salvation Army will break away from that. We'll be able to serve individuals as well. It's a shared, it's a common, bathroom. Meals will be served out of our kitchen. We're remodeling that as well through funds that Mr. Moore and Well Indian Housing Authority graciously offered up and we took. So we will have our kitchen remodeled. We will serve meals. We're gonna serve primarily dinners and continental breakfast and light lunch kind of thing, sack lunch. But that's the plan tentatively today. That's what the units will look like.
And do I recall you saying that they will be sort of a tiny home model, is that right?
Yeah.
And they could potentially be moved if they had to, but
That's-
maybe not easily.
We were talking stick build to begin with, we were gonna build these. But one Salvation Army leadership at Long Beach said, we would prefer you use a modular.
Okay.
So they will be mobile, they'll be on they'll be transportable somewhere, they'll load on a truck or have wheels, so they'll be mobile. And then basically the pad underneath would just be a concrete pad with utilities stationed in a location that we're picking units this week, as a matter of fact, the 23rd, we're gonna be, us and the advisory board will be going over all the units. And we'll pick one, and that's where the step ups for all the utilities will be based on where that unit.
So they're semi-furnished,
We will furnish them, they're just gonna be.
no built-in beds, things like that.
No,
I've seen one with Murphy beds. that had 3 Murphy beds in a room, so they had plenty of leg room during the daytime and during the evening, the beds came in. It was brilliant, it was a great,
It's a great idea.
yeah.
Our thrift store gets some Murphy beds.
Hey, put it down, man. I'm all for Murphy's bed, it's great for having some room in the house, yeah.
The Murphy bed, you have to clean your bed every day.
No, you don't.
Just hold it up.
Hold it. You don't have to make it.
So many things are learned in these meetings about people.
I'm just saying one might do that. I'm not saying that I would necessarily do that. but
All right,
one
we'll go
could.
with that.
David run for cover.
All set?
That's great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. So that's moves us on to the next, which is a project proposal update. I don't know, do you speak, Ashley, are you to the Housing 360 pilot or?
Simply that it was submitted, which you mentioned earlier today already, so we put together, I think the packet was 6 documents. And it was submitted on time, they've acknowledged receipt of it, and now we wait.
Yep, perfect. Then I assume you also have a digitally update on the security gate or Devereaux, if any updates?
Well, the Devereaux Center has called an emergency board meeting this evening. And they are gonna once again debate chain link or cedar. And would love to hear, I mean, it seems to be the opinion of almost everyone that chain link would be better. But there's a building code thing that is in the way. So the pulse is that the board's gonna say that we'll just stick with cedar. It is on the schedule for starting the build 3rd week of November. That's the earliest we could get on after delivering the check last Friday.
And there still is an opportunity to change the fence type with the building?
There is, and it should happen right now.
Yeah.
I paused, he was gonna order materials yesterday, and I heard about the meeting. Sorry, he was gonna order materials Monday, I heard about the meeting that happened yesterday, and said, let's take a breath just for a couple of days. He said it wouldn't really change the build timeline. But he did call me, say, hey, how did that meeting go, what should we do? So I do need to get him an answer as soon as possible, but if chain link is the preference of the city and the city will allow it, that communication getting to the Devereaux Center by their board meeting this evening would be great.
So my understanding of chain link from the city's perspective is it's not allowable as a permanent fencing
Right.
option. And especially in that district, there's a preferred, fencing, which would be wood or even the iron fencing. It is allowed in a temporary basis, 4-year period on that temporary basis, so.
And that was why the Devereaux Center went with cedar, because they didn't wanna have to possibly build it twice. So, and if that's still the way things are, then we move forward with cedar and there's no more discussion that needs to happen on it. Other than, the whole business license question.
So just to clarify, so this group recommended an approval to cover the costs out of our 4123 funds for the fence, and the board of commissioners from the county that are the fiscal administrator agreed to that. So that's what this group did in regard to that. And largely it was to try to provide some solution to the community and the Devereaux Center around a area of concern. And I think there was acknowledgement, I think from this group and from the board of commissioners, that there was never gonna be 100% agreement or solution, but that had value to try to do something around this issue. So that's what we did, and that's what has been moved forward. So, but obviously other events also keep going as well, so.
The gate is for security, for privacy,
All of that. Easy in and out too, right? So you need,
it's
and
coded, automatic.
we have one at our building, Coos Health and Wellness, and it basically just allows, for access, closing access, on access. You can shut it down at night, or you can't come in. So that's really, and there's, if you look at there's a there's two entrances, so you're really talking about two gates, sort of an entrance gate and an exit gate. I assume that's probably what the design would call for. Yes. Yeah. And I had said in the previous meeting that I thought cedar has some advantages just in that it's a nicer facade. And honestly, it does create some. I know in my yard, I prefer not to have people looking and seeing all my business, and I think most businesses have some desire for some security or some privacy without everybody spotting everything. But I guess that's what we're Federal Center to consider what they want to do.
You may have picked up, I think it was mentioned earlier, but I know when I first came here, it was a lot to grasp that we don't have direct control over money ourselves. The state gives it to an existing entity like a city or a county, and they are the fiscal agent for the money. And we have different fiscal agents for different grants. For handling it is pretty confusing.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is, and it's working.
It is kind of getting a little bit narrowed though, at least. Recently, it feels like it's all starting to come through.
Here's Scott, we could ask him how well it's working.
I don't think we should ask Scott that though.
Yeah,
Not yet.
I think maybe we
not
should just.
today.
Your excuse, Scott.
Let's let the narrower questions.
Yeah,
If I'm excused, I do have work to go to. I'm more than happy, or you can hear my report.
well, we're actually at that point, so if you did have anything you wanted to share, it is the time.
Yeah, no, I think we got 3 more placed last month, and I'm going off the cuff of my head here, but everything is going along fine. We continue to house people. I've got one right now that we're doing an intake in. As far as my end of things, everything is going very well. Specifically, I think we have you up to date on the grants expectations all the way to this quarter. I believe we have 2 more holes to fill for this particular quarter. Ori, and I'm sorry, I should know the numbers, 5019.
Nope.
Which is the
Just call it Ori, Scott.
Got it.
We're going with just Ori.
Okay, the Ori Youth and Family Specialist one just came up, so we're online on that one as well. And actually, we are above where we need to be as far as what we told them. We told them 5 a quarter, and I think we've already got like 8 in there. So we're just fine. I don't know if Ashley's in the room. She's got a contract that's moving along. We've got spreadsheets that people have seen. Everything is going wonderful. I have no complaints.
And I can give an update kind of on the state to city connection, not firm and not a big huge one, but I do have an email from earlier today that came from OHCS to Coos Bay and North Bend to notify you that the request to transfer Coos County's House Bill 5019 grants funds in Opus from the city of North Bend to the city of Coos Bay has been submitted and should be reflected in Opus soon. Please do not let me know, or please let me know if you do not see this change on your end within the next few days, or if you have questions. So that seems to me maybe by the end of the week, Coos Bay should be able to see those funds in Opus. Maybe that's gonna coincide with the agreements being finalized and just some documentation pieces and close that loop.
Perfect, and I'm sorry for being late. I'm excited to see representatives here from North Bend. Very happy I missed the beginning of the conversation.
Thank you, Scott.
Hey, can you give us a little primer? So OHCS is Office of Housing and Community Services.
Yes.
That's the main body in Oregon that helps fund a lot of the housing dollars at the state level and the federal level come through that organization. So a lot of our funds are administered through OHCS, and then Opus is the.
Sorry, I'm using all sorts of things no one knows about. Opus is their financial module that we, fiscal agents, would have access to if you are on a reimbursement request grant. So Ori, the third version of their funding is already loaded in there for us to get access to. Opus we're waiting on Opus for the North Bend, the 1519. There's that transfer, North Bend to Coos Bay. I expect hopefully we'll have that by the end of the week. AYA's already done a lot of the work. They're just waiting for that reimbursement of that agreement and documentation, and we will be ready to grab some money down and give them some dollars,
Pay them.
so. Yeah, pretty significant numbers. I'm not sure the last that I knew was maybe 11 out of 15,
How many
19.
people?
Yeah.
It was 11 last month.
Yeah.
So it's.
He's saying
it's
a couple
higher
more.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have our metric is roughly 5 rehoused a quarter. So,
Prorated.
yeah.
So, and it spans 2 years, so it.
Spans 2 years, but we only have a year left.
Yeah.
Not even a year.
It's been hard to get things lined up quickly enough to try to
Spend this money.
to spend the money the way that we're supposed to spend it, so. Yeah, it has been challenging.
And right now Scott spent lots of money.
Yes, it's,
And we're just getting
thank you to
reimbursement.
Scott for spending the money to get the money in
Getting
our,
us
in
on
our, into our
track.
community, really, because if we don't spend it, then the money does not get used here locally.
Yep. Okay, great. Thanks for those updates. That would move us into item number 5, which is some updates from the the homeless response office, either Eric or Ashley. The first one there is OHCS sponsored technical assistance. Ashley wants to share.
Ashley and I have been working with, I'm just seeing her microphone staying red, so I've been working with Rex who's a contractor with the state. He's worked with in this domain for a long time, and his experience and his knowledge as he coaches us is spectacular. So he's also connected to OHCS in their fiscal department. They all know each other. And so he's helping us develop, making sure our contracts are correct. He's helped develop the contract that's going to be signed with AYA, develop some process procedure for the office, a really good recommendation on the part of OHCS that we connect with him and work with him. So that's very good news for the office as a whole.
Great.
He's also provided some services to the Coquitlam Indian Housing Authority.
You know Rex as well? Yes.
Great. The next item is a legislative report. Again, I don't know if Ashley, I can provide a little bit of feedback if that's helpful, unless Eric, you know something.
Ashley was planning on talking about that,
Okay,
but I've still not seen, there we
there
go.
we go.
Okay, so we just submitted our yearly update for the League of Oregon Cities. It was the legislative report that went to well, obviously the legislature and to the governor. It was for all the 4123 pilot projects. And I think that our report shaped up really well. Nicole had provided the update for last time, and along with Andrew, our former director, and so we just did some updates for this time to show what we have accomplished and some things that we have coming up in the future. So I think that it shaped up to be a really good report, and I will email it out to anybody who's interested. The board I will email out as soon as we're done here.
Great, thank you. My understanding based on what happened last year, they actually, the League of Oregon Cities took those individual reports from there's 8 pilots, there's 8 of us across the state doing similar work that's relevant in their community, so a little bit different, but they took all of that and put it into this lovely little presentation that then got shared to the state legislators so that they could then see what this money is doing across the state, and it kind of can inform future decisions. So once we get access to that piece, we can also share that out across this group. All right, we are to public comments. Mr. Moore.
Yeah,
you have any comments?
you knew I was gonna speak.
I just haven't seen you for a bit, so it's nice if you wanted to say some words.
I did, and I do, and I will. The last time I was here, I brought up an issue about accountability and there not having been an annual report produced for the first year of this office's operation. And so I want to follow up on that. I think that's very important. I think you need to have a plan for getting that done and getting caught up. You're now coming into nearing the end of your second year. David mentioned at the beginning that in order to get the money, we had to submit a strategic plan. And that strategic plan is sort of your guideline for what needs to be reported on. You've got 4 major priorities. And the 5th item I see is I pulled up the page out of the strategic plan. Measure success for each of these community defined priorities. And that hasn't been done, but needs to be done. So just wanted to be an advocate for that and hopefully to spur you all on to figure out how to get that done. And then secondly, I had mentioned this to Eric at the last meeting, and I know how busy he's been setting up an office, so I'm sure he hasn't thought about it since, but the annual one-night count comes up in January, I believe. Isn't that January still? And I'm willing to offer my consulting services for free to review how that annual one-night count is structured and how it operates, and also to tie that in with the continuum of care. The continuum of care, which I think some of you are aware of, is a process by which this community could get substantial amounts of federal funding, federal homeless dollars, but it requires participation at a level that so far I don't think is happening at this point in time. I know that Community Action had the original major stakeholder to operate that, and I in fact created the South Coast Homeless Council, which was our local continuum of care that applied for funding through the state to get federal funding. So I'm also willing to offer some consulting services to Ashley and Eric on that, and to talk about how that might get actually revivified. It might open a pipeline for some more federal dollars to come here to work on this problem. So there you have it.
On that note, Brooke from The Rock has emailed out asking about who's going to lead pit count this year. Laura Hunter and I will be co-leading for our region.
So it does seem like you coming is timely. I also think we're not afraid to take offered help. So yeah, that's what we're about, is coordinating, and I think you have some great experience that we can definitely pull from. So I hope like we can get you guys connected and you can share, and I agree, making sure that count is appropriate so we are able to best care for the members that we have in our community. So yeah. Just to give you kind of an update related to creating maybe the end result of an annual report, but just even acknowledgement of assessing our strategic plan and where we are kind of at. I would like to say that Eric and Ashley have made some headway in that regard, getting us a document that we can kind of do some tracking on. We do have a document. We've also summarized some of the things that have been completed that are directly tied into elements of the strategic plan. We're polishing it a bit, so it's just kind of come about in the last few weeks. It's still relatively raw, but we are getting closer to having something that hopefully will share what's been happening.
At the very beginning of this whole project, I was acting as a mentor for Andrew Brainerd, and at that time, we had talked about regarding homeless counting, the tremendous amount of activity that I see on the police blotter every day, that those numbers need to be reported to the community. The community needs to know the volume of work that our local public safety officers are doing. And what's also interesting to me about that is, what is the cost? What is the value of those services that they're doing in policing the street level homeless problem? I think that that's something that Andrew and I had talked about, having a counter posted on the homeless response office website. That didn't happen, but I had actually talked to local police departments about it, and they said that, yeah, sure, they could do the counting. They probably have to do the counting anyway, but it just, that was another aspect of this whole thing. I think that there's still a tremendous amount of public concern about the homeless issue, especially the street homeless issue. And I remember the early meetings when we were getting started, the heated conversations that happened around that. And I think that our being able as a community to report on the successes that we've had and the work that's being accomplished, I think is an important thing to get out.
Another piece of this is we are looking at potentially at our own website, which pulls away from being under any of these entities
Yeah.
that we you know have in the IGA, so that this is really something that could carry forward beyond year 5, when we don't know what the makeup would be at this level here at the board. So we are thinking outside of that very tightly set box we started out early on. So yeah, appreciate those comments.
If I may,
Yeah,
I'd like also to thank Bob for his ideas and your interest and your willingness to volunteer some help. Appreciate that very, very much. You've been at this longer than probably the rest of the room all put together.
yeah, agreed.
True.
Now, I hate to impose you on other people, but
Yeah.
that's the price they pay.
Yeah.
I'm joking about that. I'm so appreciative of your interest.
Thank you, John.
I'm not sure if, any other, Amanda or anyone else have any public comments? If not, we can move to the board comments. Okay, would you like to start off? Anything you'd like to share, or?
Tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm Ron Moore, and I've lived here for 34 years. And I raised my kids here. I'm a pastor here in town. I've worked on the North Bend School Board Finance Committee for several years. We've done quite a bit of work with the homeless. In fact, 20 years ago, we took the upper part of Roosevelt School and made 7 apartments at one time. We had some great success there, and some not so great successes there. But we've had a daycare there for several years, for 10 years or so. But that's pretty much me. I'm glad to be here, and I'm concerned about homeless for several reasons. And so I'm glad to be a part of the solution. Maybe I'd love to be a part of the solution. That's what I'm saying.
Happy you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
John?
Are we supposed to do it too?
Well, it's your opportunity to speak.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I thought we were introducing ourselves.
You-
I could talk about it, and that's a good idea, so we know, the others that are new here might know a little bit about our backgrounds. Well, I'm John Sweet, and I'm currently serving as the county commissioner here in Cooper County. I've done that for 12 years. First ever foray into politics. Wasn't as regrettable as I thought it might be. But
Give it time.
We're native of the area, was born in Bend almost 85 years ago. Happy to still be here, love the area. And well, the cities have been doing the heavy lifting, and David, I'm pleased to be a part of this, and the rest of them carry me along. So no, it's a serious problem. The answers aren't easy. The whole country's been dealing with it for quite a few years, and I really don't notice any answers that are any better than what we're coming up with here. And I'm so appreciative of all the work that people are doing. Eric, you're a blessing to us. Major, Bob, all of you, even you, David.
Hey,
That's something
I
to
helped you
know.
get your car locked today.
So glad that I'm sitting between
Yeah, really.
today.
And I joke a lot. I don't really.
Okay, it's a tough, we have tough conversations, and so a little bit of levity is, helps, so appreciate
Yes.
that. Traditionally, this seat takes last, but it feels like we should just keep going, so. Nicole Rutherford, I'm the city manager at Coos Bay. I've been here for a long time, I don't know how, I grew up down in the Medford area, but, been here since '88, so a little bit of time. I have learned so much from being on this board, and had a pretty strong shift in what my understanding of what this looks like, both to provide service and then interact with folks who are really struggling in our community. So I appreciate that growth opportunity and kind of bringing humanity back into some of this work that we do. It's really tough to do that when you're wear a government hat, so it's kind of refreshing to think differently. So I'm really excited. We have a full crew and working together, forward momentum. It's all very, very awesome. So welcome and look forward to what's next.
And David Giels, I'm the behavioral health director at Coos Health and Wellness, which is the community mental health program associated with the county. Been there for 25 years, raised 3 kids here, with them on the Coos Bay school board as well, so I've been involved in that. Yeah, I think partly I was asked to do this in part just because, my group works with people with mental illness, and that's a group that has had issues with homelessness forever. I mean, so we have learned a lot about trying to help people with major significant disabilities be successful in housing. So I think we have some lessons learned that we can apply. But honestly, we talk a lot about houselessness, but when I started here, the average person I worked with could afford a place to live. Now, most of the places that they would rent are actually more than they get on a monthly income. So as much as we talk about how to deal with the homeless, if we don't have housing that people can afford, we're just not going to make progress. So I think ultimately, that's really, to me, where the North Star is about trying to find ways that we can have housing that people actually can afford to live in. Because everything else just falls off after that. So, and I would say just as I've been working with the city of North Bend and the Housing Authority on trying to get the North Bend Family Housing Project up and running. I didn't go through the first year failure, but I went through the second year failure, and this third go round looks like we might be there. So I think we're at the final sort of approval process for funding, and then I think they're looking at starting demolition this winter sometime. And to me, 100 units, 130 units, whatever it ends up being of housing that actually is affordable is really where things need to be. So otherwise, we're going to continue to chase our tails around trying to help people find some food or a shelter for that night or all of those things. So I know even with my kids, when we got our house, I paid off my mortgage, thank God, but my mortgage payment was $750 a month for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house on 2.5 acres. So my kids in North Bend rented a small old 2-bedroom, 1-bath, dilapidated, and they pay about $1,700 a month for that. So to me, that's the contrast problem right there. I could afford a house it was affordable. My kids in the same situation, barely can manage it. And they're both employed. One of them works for the government. They make decent wages and they're still in a very difficult situation. So to me, that's the nut we need to crack.
Wow. You're like so right on. A lot of people that I talk to, the comments are affordable housing.
Yeah.
If you can just find a way for people to get into a house. Well, I've been with the casino, the Mill Casino, with the Coco Tribe, who I adore, and if it was my first job, I would never have had another job. I do benefits and safety for the casino of 500 and change employees. I've done workers' comp. I was a comp specialist since the 70s, so I've always kind of been in insurance and been involved with people's lives. One of the things that I noticed when I started working here, though, is the amount of people that are so over their heads financially, and I work with them when they're tapping into their 401ks or asking for potlatch or doing something that's, you know, they're underwater. They're underwater and they're making $18 an hour and they are living in their cars. And so my heart's always had kind of a burden about that. And as I've seen the town change in just the 15 years I've been here, and I was in Grants Pass for 10, so I worked for a school district there, the Grants Pass School District. Also had a lot of poverty there and a lot of kids living up from couches, you know, surfing. And I remember looking around and seeing the advisory ad in the paper and thinking to myself, well, God, I don't know what can I contribute? I feel like you, I feel like I have wealth of experience. I don't know where to put it. I guess I can go train dogs. I like working with dogs, but it wasn't where my heart's been. And I kind of walked around with that ad in my mind and walked around with the newspaper for several days and finally went online and applied and didn't hear anything for a couple of weeks. And I thought, oh, well, maybe that was a hole, you know, a little black hole, you just throw your stuff in. And then I got a letter from you and I got a letter from Macy or email, yeah. And I got so excited and I thought, well, I'm 72. I just retired in June. I have a couple of days I work for 4 hours a day because I still float over at the office and do safety. Maybe I can contribute something and I feel like you, maybe I can, I'm a solution-based thinker, always have been. That's kind of how I succeed at what I do. Maybe we can find a root cause, affordable housing, and then find a way to solve it. I mean, I had a professor in college that made up a word called satisfice. It's not the best solution, it's the best of all possible solutions. And I've always used that as kind of a measuring stick. You know, what's the best possible solution we can come up with? And I'm passionate and I'm here to participate. Okay, go North Bend.
All right.
Stephanie.
Well, Stephanie Kilmer, and I serve as a Coos Bay City Councilor and have since 2016. I'm also the chairman of the Coos Bay Urban Renewal Agency and the liaison to the Coos Bay Downtown Association. And I serve on that as the Economic Vitality Committee. I've been here pretty much for most of my life, better than 50 years. Grew up in downtown. Parents mom was a medical technician and my dad owned the Bay Cities ambulance for years. And so very involved in the community and set a really good example. And so I maintained that after they left and got involved. Never thought, this is my first go round as well as a city councilor or in government, and never thought I would be on that side of the table. So one of the committees that I co-chaired with Councilor Farmer, who just left the council position, was the Homeless Advisory Committee, which was something that we established in the city of Coos Bay to try and tackle some of the issues that we were having with homelessness in the community. And we brought together, because we know whatever we do affects everyone else. So we brought together folks from North Bend, the community service providers, but also people impacted in not so good ways. Neighborhood watch groups that were impacted from the crisis, and the county law enforcement, to try to come up with some solutions that we could put on the table. So I'm glad to say that it kind of ran its course. We had several actions that were recommended to the council that were implemented. Some of those have been revised since the original piece that was presented, including our homeless camping ordinance. But you know, those are living things. And so I joined this as an alternate, and when Drew stepped off as a city councilor, I stepped into that role as the alternate. I haven't attended all of the meetings in the past, but I feel kind of like I'm up to speed on most of it, and so I welcome our new members.
Thank you. All right, yeah, Mary.
Quick question before we close. Did we decide at a prior meeting that grant applications should be approved by the board? Or?
As far as providers coming to ask for, or that we, as far as grants we're gonna apply for?
A grant that we're applying for. So one of the things I'm working on right now is an application for a grant on behalf of the Devereaux Center through FEMA to help relocate Cold Bank Village. It's due another week and a half or so, and I either want you to be aware or get approval, or
I guess it probably depends on, like, so in this instance, are you applying, like helping the Devereaux Center apply for a grant through FEMA, or will they be applying under the umbrella of the county, North Bend or Coos Bay? I think that impacts whether or not that's something we would want to know about, much like the grant writer might help someone,
Yep.
you know,
I'm helping them. Well, I'm doing it for them, but the grant will come from Devereaux Center to FEMA.
Yeah.
yeah, so I
But
don't, I mean, awareness, I
Great,
think is enough,
Yeah,
but I
I
mean,
think that's adequate now.
All right.
yeah,
then awareness.
yeah. Yeah, thank you, it's a great service.
I'll go right on grant for Bravo, right thing.
Build up city.
Yeah, that's not the city we're building, just, no. All right, anything else? Otherwise, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.